All right, hopefully we are live here and the tech gods again are agreeable. And if you set up your LinkedIn profile, say 10, 15, even 20 years ago, right? LinkedIn just celebrated its 20th anniversary. You may have thought it was an excellent place to deposit your resume or your CV. Today, people expect a whole lot more than just a resume. So save the resume for your website, your homepage. They want to know who you are. They want to know who do you serve and really what sets you apart, especially. So welcome to the recently relaunched LinkedIn Live here. It's called The One Thing, where the big one idea is to stick with just one very actionable insight, tool, or tip that you can take away, implement very easily to actually move the needle in your business. And it really makes a difference for you. So my name is Viveka Hess of Hess Connect, and I work very closely with lawyers and law firms to support them and help them leverage LinkedIn to build their book of business, their book of clients. So the specific idea today, this week especially, is around the topic of your About section. And that is where you had the luxury of 2,600 characters to provide a fuller picture of who you are, beyond that catchy headline where you only have 220 characters to really show up and sort of capture attention. So last week we talked about the headline, and if you did, of course you did implement the changes that I suggested in your headline, who you are, what you do, and what sets you apart. Again, that's a lot to pack into 220 characters, but if you manage to capture attention that way as you're engaging and commenting on LinkedIn, then the next thing they're going to do is they're going to head back to your profile and be curious, and then hopefully show up and read the whole About section. And that's where they get a fuller picture, sort of an in-depth idea of who you are, what really sets you apart. So I'm going to be addressing the About section on this one. And remember, the headline is what captures our attention. Your About section, formerly known as the summary section on your LinkedIn profile, is where you get to dive in a little bit deeper. So we got to grab their attention and then send them to a very sort of open, welcoming, interesting About section that sets you apart. Yinka, thank you so much for coming in here. Yes, you have 2,600 characters for the About section. That's a luxury when you compare it to the headline that's packed into just 220 characters. So I have a few sub-points, right? I'm sticking with the main point here of the About section, but there are a few things that you need to remember in your About section. And again, that's where we used to just deposit our resume, just dump it. We used to copy and paste it from the website, your homepage, whatever template that the law firm had designated for the About section on the website. It is no longer that. So the first big tip I'm going to give you on your About section is this: tell a story. Why? Because in this somewhat saturated, competitive environment of over 1.3 million attorneys in the US alone, people have choices. And so by telling a story, there's really only one person that can tell your story. That's you. There's only one story with your background, the way you serve, and the people you work with. And so telling a story, which is after all, much of the way that we grew up was through stories. So that's a great way to really continue captivating an audience. So pull them into your story. Yes, talk about your accolades and your experience, your expertise, all the things that you've accomplished, but do it in the form of a story to pull people in so that you're not talking to them, but you're speaking with them. You're actually having a type of dialogue in that About section. So stories, think of a story. And when you think of a story, a really great story, the way you get sort of drawn into that is with a great hook. So that's my first tip after the story. So the big idea of telling a story is use a fantastic hook. And I've seen some really good creative ones with lawyers here on LinkedIn these last few years. Like any other story, the first few lines of this About section should be compelling. So maybe posit something that's a little bit provocative or counterintuitive, or even a question to draw them in. This is even more important when you consider that only those first few lines are displayed when someone views your profile. So those first 2 or 3 lines are what's going to encourage them or capture their attention to click read more, where you get to roll out the rest of this amazing story about your background and expertise and how you serve, what sets you apart. So second sub point here is cut the buzzwords and the jargon. And as lawyers, we're experts at using this, thinking the whole world understands these complex concepts. So sure, people are coming here to a lawyer profile. They want to know that you're intelligent, you're creative, you're passionate, you're going to represent them really, really well. But it also means that you get to show up and really show that you know how to unpack very complex legal concepts and offer solutions in a way that is both clear and, importantly, relatable to your particular audience. You might be speaking to other attorneys, you might be speaking to referral partners or to prospective clients, but you need to unpack and show how you can relate something to an audience by taking this complexity and boiling it down to a very simple sort of value-loaded piece of information for your reader. All right, second thing I want to say is kill the lengthy paragraphs. I see this time and time again still in LinkedIn profiles in their about section. We'll see a lengthy paragraph, just one big paragraph, no breathing room. And the very unfortunate thing about that is that all your experience, your expertise, the way you do things, what sets you apart, all of that, even if you have that sort of down, and you have that clear in your mind and you're trying to express that, it gets lost in one big paragraph. Our attention spans, unfortunately, have shortened over the years. And so you need to sort of break that out into shorter paragraphs so there's some breathing room in between. That way, each point get its due recognition, right? So, you can get away with that in law and all the court documents you submit. Yes, you can have a treatise length paragraph, sure, but not in your about section. That's where we need to have a little bit more breathing room. And then the third thing I want to mention here is passive voice. All right, don't use a third-party passive voice. Instead, use the I. Speak in first person like you're having that conversation. You're not having a monologue. Yes, it's your about section and you've written it, but you're having a dialogue with your intended audience, with your ideal audience. So use the first person. Using a third person voice does a few things that really sort of deflects people from reading and from having an experience with you and as to who you are. It creates a distance between yourself and the reader. And quite frankly, nowadays, third person voice sounds a little bit arrogant, as though you're trying to elevate yourself to this almost this untouchable or unrelatable person. So those are the three things I want to mention in terms of your about section. One, the overall idea is tell a story, right? And Asmara, the profiles that speak about the person in third person like they are Oprah is just so cringe. Okay, I get it. I get what you're saying. It is cringy. It is creating a distance, and it's an intentional distance but borders on arrogance. So get rid of the third person voice. So back here to summarize this. One, tell a story like only you can. Only one person has that story. That's you. That's the way you will set yourself apart in the very best way in this about section. You have 2,600 characters. Have fun with it. So tell that story that only you can tell with your experience and your background and the way you do things. Two, kill the buzzwords and the jargon. Show you know how to simplify and create relatable information and value to the reader from complex legal concepts. And then third, use the first person voice. Those are the things I want you to think about. Now, I don't have enough time, but look around, look at the first few sentences, of some of the about sections for lawyers. You're going to find a lot of creativity out there. The thing is that you want to sort of elaborate on that headline that's out there traveling with you on LinkedIn, bring them back to the about section and tell the story. And so that you create that relationship. People are looking to do business with other humans, people, not entities, not businesses, not your law firm. I mean, that's all great, but they're looking to connect with you one-to-one, human to human. So I'm Viveka Hess again. And if you want a little bit more of this, you are welcome to come in and test out the Lawyer's Brief. It's a private membership where we're a small, intimate group where we support each other. I guide on LinkedIn topics so that you're always cutting edge, keeping on top of LinkedIn's tools and tips and algorithm and all that. And you have a group of really high-level, creative, passionate thinkers that are doing things just a little bit different. So I'd love to see you there. If you're interested, shoot me a DM and just say brief. The membership's called the Lawyer's Brief, or in the comments below. And so I appreciate you showing up here, and I'll see you next Wednesday. And thank you, Yinka Asmara, for coming in and telling a story like only you can. I know both you ladies do that every single day. So I appreciate you. Thanks for coming in here.